you have to say congratulations, and it'll send.
Really?
I'll Google if you can do it a different way.
Yeah, and then you go.
I'm not gonna say congratulations.
Can you get
Thing,
confetti
those of you who are not here.
without saying
We met a lot of
congrats?
There's a lot of people there. There's about 11
You-
schools.
I always hope that one of the things that's accomplished is that you people realize you're just as smart as those other kids. They have the same problems as
Funny
you
thing, we
guys
were smarter.
have. Nope.
No, they
No.
have different
really.
problems.
A
A
lot
lot
of
of them have different problems, actually.
Slightly more serious.
That's how you're
But I mean, they're the same as you. You guys would be just fine in Woodbury or Stillwater.
Oh, here, I got it.
Richfield, Burnsville.
Caitlin here.
So raw. I'm trying to figure something. He's like, no, I get it. I was like,
I was talking about kids that isolate themselves because they want
You can do balloons too.
I know, you are so
balloons.
How'd you do it? Just press the send button. You stop.
You
Dawson,
hold it down.
you just might be right. Yeah. I might be owing you a
Gonna make
copy.
that bet now.
Hi. Hi, Ben.
I personally think they need
You
to
hold
win
it
one
down
more
and
game,
then you
Yeah.
press screen, and then
One
there's a
more.
bunch of them.
which is either at Maryland or the Big Ten tournament. They gotta win one more, and then I think you're right. So I don't think they're there yet.
I haven't seen any of these before.
Oh, that's fun.
Is Chandra here? Yes. Okay, I realize I sent you a bunch of reminds yesterday,
It was
but
like.
generally,
for like-
the point of those reminds, and this is important that you are listening right now. Sort of good news, bad news. I don't even think bad news is bad. So the good news is I have waived the CIS for this week and next week.
Should you erase them then?
Not only, well, yeah, sure.
What if they?
Not only do you not have to do them, but I will pretend you did. You will get full credit as long as you finish the paper.
By next week.
And the paper's due date is now next week, the day before spring break, that day. If you're going to be gone, it doesn't matter. It's still due that day. So if you're going to be leaving early for spring break, then put into place a plan to make sure that I have my hands on that paper before off you go to spring break. So that's what I'll call the good news. And the bad news, I don't even think it's bad news, but the challenge, the main reason why I added that week was there was a little bit of miscommunication, my fault, mostly. I'll accept 49% of the blame.
Wow.
And that is, somebody came up to me yesterday and said, hey, do we even need historical examples in this paper? Because it doesn't say that anywhere. I looked and you're right, it doesn't, but you do. Of course you need historical examples. My fault, but this is just like a Blue Book essay. You prove and with you make a claim, you make a document, you use a document piece of evidence. This time you're quoting. Did you get that, Mason? This time you're quoting. You then prove the quote has validity, and then you might disprove it, right? For the side you disagree with, you prove then disprove. You say, well, it appears that this has validity, and then you use some piece of historical evidence to suggest, yep, it has validity, but then you ultimately say, however, this is wrong. You have a second piece of historical evidence to disprove it.
Does it have to relate to your first type, or can it be completely like different, like idea, just to disprove it?
Like if you had like your first.
Yes, I think you could do that. As long as you're suggesting this is not a valid argument, you can use a different argument. In the two paragraphs that are arguing the side you agree with, you would only then need one piece of historical evidence, right? You're simply proving it, okay? And then that's just like a Blue Book essay. And then you throw in where it belongs, the historian. The historian's point of view. Both historians argued not that the U.S. should have done it, but why the U.S. did it. That would seem to be long in the paragraph arguing whether you agree with it or not. The U.S. should have done it. And then what you're doing is saying one reason that the U.S. did it, according to historian blah, 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 was economic, political, whatever. Okay? Yes, dear.
This might be a stupid question, but aren't we already bringing in the historians with the document evidences and stuff?
Document evidence is from the
Or-
separate packet.
Or is that a okay, it's a different packet. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Are we clear? Now, the other piece of bad news is that I don't want to take up all your time, but all the computer porta potties are signed out right now. So if you have your own computer, that's awesome. Otherwise, my plan was to sort of have you just kind of bleed out there and see the teachers that signed them out. Do they have a few extras? I know Carter's one of them. Library. Well, Mr. Carter, guitar extraordinaire. Apparently rhymes everything.
I'm in his class.
See you later, alligator.
Cool swimming pool.
That's a
Way to
raffle.
go to Provolone.
What are you saying?
Wells.
Oh, you think I'm involved in that? Okay, all right.
What?
I get it. Okay.
Oh,
Wall dog.
you're the bad guy.
Am I? Okay.
You wore your hat in the video. Who else would it be?
But it was dark.
How do you know it's dark?
I watched the video too.
Oh, I like that's the laugh when I feel like
And no one else laughs like
I
that.
mean you. Okay.
No. Like in person, like when the bad guy was laughing on screen, were you laughing in person as well?
I chortled. That's my chortle.
Okay.
Let's start. Yes, those of you who missed yesterday, I do recommend that you watch the video or at least get the lowdown from somebody. We started solving the problems yesterday. So the problems that were presented, there were solutions. One was, hey, government is corrupt. Solution, let's create 3 ideas: initiative, referendum, reform. Let's allow citizens to come up with ideas. Let's let government come up with ideas, but let citizens vote on them. Let's be able to remove corrupt government officials. Initiative, referendum, reform. Let's let women vote. Those were all solutions. Let's keep going. So Teddy Roosevelt, I believe this is the first time that I think we talked about him a little. He participated in the Spanish-American War.
We had the Roosevelt corollary.
We talked about the Roosevelt corollary.
I
Very
can't
good.
say
Okay.
that word.
So have any of you ever owned a teddy bear? Ever?
Yes.
Named after Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy bears are named after Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh.
So Roosevelt's conclusion was that these huge monopolies were not inherently bad. There's nothing inherently bad about a monopoly, or I'll use interchangeably monopoly and trust. That is not technically correct, but that's okay. For purposes of this class, just understand that a trust is a massive company. And so are monopolies. They're not quite the same, but a whole lot of monopolies were trusts. So for purposes of this class, we're going to use them. We're going to interchange those 2 terms. And there's nothing inherently bad about a trust. There's nothing inherently bad about a trust. There are good trusts and there are bad trusts. The government should take on the bad trusts. They should take on the bad monopolies. And what makes you bad? Do you remember me showing you various activities that corrupt monopolies engaged in? Bribery, setting up shop right next to a small hick gas station, and then just gutting the price, throwing that company out of business, and then buying it. He wanted to break up the bad trusts. The bad monopolies, break them up. Leave the good ones alone, right? And so political cartoons played a huge role at this time. Right around 1900, political cartoons played a huge role. And this one is mainly praiseworthy. It's Roosevelt the bear hunter. And who are the bears? Bad trusts. Anyone know why was the teddy bear named after Teddy Roosevelt? What does he have to do with bears?
He was up
He was
there.
a good hunter.
He was a very avid hunter. He was an outdoorsman. The guy was an outdoorsman. Yellowstone National Park exists because of Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, I know. He had a good friend named John Muir. Does that name ring a bell with anybody? John Muir? Any of you been out to California and seen the redwoods?
My sister went with me.
Muir National Forest, the largest trees on Earth. Yeah, beautiful. Next time you're in San Francisco,
It's
go
not-
north across the San Francisco Bridge. It's lovely. Take your first left.
How do you remember this?
I've been there a few times.
Take
First
your
left
first
after the San
left and
Francisco
go
Bridge,
right on County
and
Road
you
up.
will find yourself in among the forest with the world's largest trees.
There's
You drive under them? Did you go to Sequoia?
No, you can't. It's like
Never Sequoia,
it's a
just
hiking
your national
bridge.
forest. The Sequoia's another
Could
one.
you walk under
Right.
them?
Walked around. Yeah. Okay. So
when in
FDR named his presidency. One of the things that you will notice from here on out is that presidents label their presidencies. It's a brand. Later on, we'll study his cousin, FDR, and his New Deal. He called it the square deal. You're getting a square deal. See, everybody back then talked like this. Hey, you're going to get a square deal. Hey, you talking to me? They all talk like that. Anyway, another political cartoon. Look at poor Uncle Sam getting crucified by the corrupt, right? Our job is to protect the consumer. So, for example, let's pass a law that before that meat, that delicious T-bone steak gets sold to you, it's actually inspected by a government official that checks to make sure that it's not rotting. That's called the Meat Inspection Act. Let's go and inspect the products that are put in Oreo cookies, or the famous story of the hot dog factory, right? A writer visited a hot dog factory and saw how those things were made, and it disgusted him. And so after that experience, a law passed that said you have to list every ingredient. You have to list every ingredient that's in your product. So when the hot dog factory listed rat poison, because it was in there because they had a rat problem, so they had to list rat poison as one of their ingredients because it was in the hot dog, fewer people bought it. So they changed the ingredients. You see? Brilliant. If you have to list every ingredient, the company just might change the ingredients. Did you know why Coke is named Coke? There used to be cocaine in there. They changed the ingredients once this law was passed because cocaine, although probably attracting some consumers, also lost some consumers. Okay.
I'm addicted to
So he's got three goals. One, we're going to break up bad trust. Two, we're going to protect consumers. And three, we're going to protect the environment. There's Teddy standing at Inspiration Falls next to what we today call Yellowstone National Park. How many of you have been there? I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's glorious. Okay. So what this slide is showing you is the three big goals of the square deal. TR's presidency will be defined by these three big ideas.
Does that say this is U.S. in the hands of Jews?
Yeah. There's a stereotype that persists today, and that is the Jews control the money.
Is that what used to be done?
Yes. During the Middle Ages, Jews were the bankers because they were not allowed to own property.
What does NR stand
Natural resources. Natural resources. Okay, let's keep going here. So let's take a look at each one of these goals in a little bit more specificity. Another political cartoon. Again, this was the age of political cartoons. Can anyone provide context of what in the world we're looking at here?
Is that a torture device?
It is a torture device. Do you know what it was called? Does anyone know what it was called?
It looks like one of those things where like
It's like a waste trailer.
you put on like on the side of a thing and you like twist it. They're in the woods room and it like slowly tightens. Like
Yeah, I guess it is sort of based on that.
clamp.
This is one of the things that man is very creative with is methods of torture and execution. This is the Spanish garrote. This was popular, a popular way that the Spanish executed people. And basically it's that device. It's a vice, only they just put it around your neck and they just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze.
Ew.
Does your head explode?
I don't know. I've never seen one.
We should look at the video.
We should try it.
Yeah.
Another video that I'm going to be throwing away. Okay. This is Teddy. And here are your fat trusts. The bad trusts, and he's going to kill them. He's going to kill them with certain laws. And here we go. Here are the laws and executive actions and Supreme Court decisions that were enacted at this time to take on bad trusts, like that fat cat right there. All right, number one, Elkins Act. If you were a naughty railroad, you were fined. What's a naughty railroad? A naughty railroad is a railroad that, for example, charges this consumer to ship his grain X amount, but charges this consumer a different amount. You can't do that. You cannot. McDonald's cannot say, oh, for you, this Big Mac is $2. Oh, for you, $4. You can't do that. Now, there are a couple exceptions. Can you think of any?
Coupons.
Okay, that's true. Sorry?
We're going for it.
Insurance rate, very good. So insurance rates. So what the company does is say, well, you fit this demographic, you're paying this much. Any other examples?
What
Old
your
people.
Income.
Right? Old people, senior citizens have a senior citizen discount. Well, it's not fair, but no one cares. Right?
Taxes.
Children's menu.
Your income.
Just taxes, some taxes.
You know when we had that whole conversation about who's paying more? I didn't get it.
Some taxes.
Like about the candy bar.
I suppose taxes are sort of that way. Sales taxes are not though, right? No matter what your income, you pay the same amount of sales tax. That's not an example. Okay. Here's an example of a trust that was dissolved. It's called Northern Securities. Huge company, and I can't remember what Northern Securities did. What was their product? I don't remember. Maybe do a little bit of investigation. I don't remember, but I don't think it was a railroad. I don't remember. Do a little bit of investigation. It was dissolved. FDR labeled it a bad trust. Sued them, goes to court, and the U.S. government dissolves the company. That's a lot of government power. Breaks it up. Question? Yes, they did. AT&T. When I was your age, there was one phone company, AT&T. That's it. Everyone had AT&T. Nobody said, well, what company do you use? That's like saying, well, which air do you breathe? This air right here. Everyone breathes this air. Everyone used AT&T until the U.S. government broke it up. That's a lot of government power. U.S. government eventually broke up Standard Oil, Rockefeller's baby. Broke it up into companies that exist today. Exxon, Mobil, all these other companies that exist today, oil companies, were at one point one company. And the U.S. government broke it up. U.S. Steel broke it up, but gives a lot of power to the government.
The company was a railroad company.
It was a railroad company.
Yeah,
Okay.
it said it controlled Pacific Railway.
Okay, there you go. It was a naughty trust. It was a bad trust. And it says here, YISC concurred. What does that mean?
USC.
The U.S. Supreme Court. So Northern Securities argued that the government had no right to do this, that we're a capitalist country. If a company engages in rotten behavior, the consumer will punish the company by not buying the product. That the government should take a hands-off approach. This is a very conservative argument that Northern Securities was making. It's the consumer that dictates if a company is being naughty. The liberal approach is, no, government has a role. Let me give you this very simple scenario. Should there be a law requiring seatbelts? How many of you say, yeah?
Well, if
But
you don't
allow
want,
me to argue against you. If the government did not require seatbelts, would car companies have seatbelts in their cars? And I would argue ultimately the answer is yes.
Because they want
Ultimately.
their consumers to
Because
buy it.
what moron would buy a car without seatbelts? There probably are some. They buy the car without seatbelts, cheaper car. And then boom, and they die. The population has been thinned. The morons are now dead. And the surviving seatbelt wearers buy cars with seatbelts. No government.
And then there's no one left to buy this.
It's very good. This is social Darwinism at its most horrific. I'll give you another one. Again, what do you think about this? Should there be a law? There is a law. Should there be a law that says that restaurants have to cook hamburgers until it reaches a certain temperature? 160 degrees. How many of you think, well, yeah. Let me argue against you. This company doesn't cook their hamburgers to that temperature because it's slightly raw, it's slightly more juicy, people eat it, and they die of salmonella poisoning. The herd has been thinned.
What if they don't know that they're gonna die?
Well, they die the next day, newspaper article, man dies at Arby's.
Whoa.
I'm not going to eat at Arby's,
Arby's doesn't have
says
burgers.
newspaper reader. Okay, Arby's doesn't have hamburgers. Good point.
I made a point.
Next law, something called the Hepburn Act. Look at this law. It's fascinating. Who gets to set the prices? Let me ask this general question. Who gets to set the prices that McDonald's has for their Big Macs? Who sets those prices?
The corporation.
McDonald's. Now, with railroads, the government gets to set the prices. The government tells you how much you can charge.
Wait, what's ICC?
The Interstate Commerce Commission. You met the Interstate Commerce Commission last year. The Interstate Commerce Commission was the nation's first regulatory agency. I'll remind you that what the Supreme Court ruled was that states had no power to regulate railroads because railroads, yes, they pass through states, but they're beyond states. Only the federal government had the power to regulate railroads, and now they are. The Interstate Commerce Commission says, hey, railroad, this is how much you can charge. But
Have the parties flipped yet? Or is...
No.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
they have not.
Because he's not very Republican up to date
In today's world. Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I agree that Teddy Roosevelt was an extraordinarily liberal Republican. Very good. Okay. Any questions here? One slide left.
Nada.
Okay. Big goal number 2, right? I said there were 3 goals. One was to take on naughty trusts. I showed you some laws. Now we're looking at how he's going to protect the consumer, and I've actually introduced some of these laws. Again, another political cartoon. There's Teddy Roosevelt. He's standing on some sort of a board, and in the board is some sort of goo. You can see a cow skull. You can see meat scandal. The book that I was referring to was a book called The Jungle. It was written by, I believe, a guy by the name of Upton Sinclair. Upton Sinclair is a muckraker. It's a fictional book, but it was based on his investigation of a hot dog factory in Chicago. And it revealed that the hot dog factory did lay out rat poison because there was a rat problem. And then the next day, turned on the conveyor belt. That's what's in your hot dogs. And so it was in the book. The American public reacted with horror to this. And so this law was passed, Meat Inspection Act. You'll notice that it has a year. Most laws, not all laws, but most laws have expiration dates. And as a result, they have to be renewed. There's a Meat Inspection Act of 2018. It's renewed every year. Meat has to be inspected. These slaughterhouses have to be inspected by a U.S. government official. From the, which department is that? That's the letters are in my head. U.S. Right? When you buy a steak, it's got that stamp on it. It's USDA, yes, which stands for United States Dairy Department of Agriculture. There it is. Okay, very good. Yes, USDA. Now has the, okay, so you've seen it. You go to Cub Foods, your mom buys a lovely steak and it's got that stamp on it. It's been approved, right? It's been graded. Government does that. That costs money though. That costs money. Allow me to argue the conservative approach. Don't do that. Don't pay some government official to inspect the meat. Let them buy and sell rotting meat. Someone will buy it because it's dirt cheap. Put it on the grill, eat it, get sick, die. The herd has been thinned. That would be the conservative approach, right? I would say this. No matter what your political leanings are, I'm sure there are liberals in here. I'm sure there are people in here who can't stand President Trump. And I'm also equally sure that there are some people that are fairly conservative in here. I would say that both of you want the same thing. Safe products, quality products. It's just that the way to get there is different. The liberal says, let's have government get involved, safe products. Conservative says, the market can figure it out on its own, safe products. That's the most disagreement between Democrats and Republicans today. Everybody wants the United States to be safe, right? It's just that conservatives today want a wall. It's not that Democrats say, no, let's let terrorists in. No, they want the country to be safe too. It's just the way to get there is different. The goals are the same, the methods are different.
Okay, so Trump is taking, you could argue that Trump is taking a liberal approach on the wall. Because
Absolutely.
government involvement to build a border wall.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Wow.
We are going to, when
Trump's
we get,
liberal.
Trump's liberal. We are going to, when we get to President Trump, try and figure out what does it mean to be conservative today? What does that mean? And I would say it's very different from what it meant in different times, right? Conservatives today are more about military power and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Second law. Look at this friendly old guy. I mean, he's at the corner store and he's got a little bucket that says butter. Isn't it sweet?
Yummy.
The Pure Food and Drug Act. Again, look at the date. This has been renewed every year. At the time, it required that you list all your ingredients in any product you make, right? When you buy those Oreo cookies, you can flip it over and you can know exactly what's in those Oreo cookies.
And make them.
And make them yourself, okay. It has been updated several times so that today, not only is the listing of ingredients in there, but in order. The number one product, that's the most common product, all the way down to the end. You know the nutritional value, right? You can look and say, all right, these Wheaties that I'm eating, how much vitamin C am I getting? They have to do that. They have to. Do you think Doritos wants you to know how much fat is in their Doritos? Do you think that's a selling point? Sweet, look at all that fat.
Nice.
They have to. They have to because of this law. Now, again, a conservative would say, no. Let the people eat Doritos. They'll get incredibly fat. They'll die of diabetes. The herd has been thinned. Hey, look at that. I combined two words. Herd and thinned. Third.
You're just gonna say that. You know, like-
I have now saved time. Third. You now know what I mean. The herd has been thinned. Third.
Yeah, do the-
I have saved time. I should now bank that time and add it with daylight savings, which, by the way, is this weekend.
Oh, no.
Spring forward, so we lose an hour. But I won't lose an hour. I will only lose 59 minutes and about 50 seconds.
Okay, you're
I will
going.
be 10 seconds. I would have done it anyway. Aha! I would have. Okay, very good. Okay, so 14 of you, blue book essays. Come on. There are 33 kids who take this class. 14 of you have not finished your blue book essays. What the crap?
Crap.
Come on. So that is option number one. Don't bother with the Kias unless you want to start with